Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest Top 5 episode. This is the show where I take a topic in progressive rock, usually generated by my wife, and just come up with a top 5 list based on that topic. It's off the cuff, it's not overly prepared, it's just me talking and trying to use my previous progressive rock knowledge to come up with something interesting for you guys to listen to, and also to provide a jumping off point for you guys to discuss this in the comments section. That's always the most fun of these videos for me, is seeing the contributions in the comments, seeing you guys put stuff out there that I didn't think about and that is really interesting and fascinating. So if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. I do these top 5s every Thursday. It's a fun feature of the channel that I enjoy. There's also other videos on the channel that are all related to prog rock in some way or another. So if you're into this genre, please join the channel, subscribe. Really appreciate the support. It really helps the channel grow. Let's get into the topic at hand. This is one that my wife thought up of that I struggled a bit with, I'll admit. It's artists you wish would work together. So basically different artist collaborations. And I did a show not too long ago of the top 5 fantasy prog band, which to me is somewhat related to this topic, where I talked about a band of 5 people who aren't typically ones that work together in a band, and this like fantasy idea of this dream band that you could put together that would be a lot of fun. And I got a lot of comments of like, well, it's not very realistic, and some of these people wouldn't mix very well, and probably the dream bands already exist. They're Yes, they're Genesis, they're, all these bands that we fall in love with are already perfect as they are, and a mix and match maybe would provide more of a Frankenstein type beast that maybe wouldn't work well together as much as you might think it might. So I felt the similar way about this one. I looked at a list of all the different artists from all the different prog bands that I enjoy and tried to fit them together. And it was a little bit of a difficult exercise, but the framework I decided upon for this one, and you don't have to in your comment if you want to contribute to this topic, is actual realistic pairings, people that I think could actually work together in real life if the stars aligned, people that are alive and able to collaborate and who are still active in making music is basically the avenue I went. And it ended up a lot of pairings of a newer prog musician with an older prog musician, but not in every case. So basically, let me get into it. So number 5, I thought of a pairing of Neal Morse working with Peter Gabriel. I felt like Neal Morse had to be in the mix here somewhere, but he's collaborated and worked with so many different artists already over the years, so it was almost hard to come up with someone he hadn't already worked with. He's worked with Steve Hackett on an album, he worked with Steve Morse in Flying Colors, he's worked with Mike Portnoy, he's worked with Royna Stolt, all of these legendary musicians, people that are dream pairings already. But I thought Peter Gabriel would be an interesting person to pair him with. They both have a bit of this singer-songwriter background. They are both great writers and very passionate about their lyrics and about what they're talking about. And I know Neal Morse is a fan of classic Genesis material, so I think it would be a fun and exciting experience for him. I think there's some shared common ground between the Snow album that Neal Morse crafted with Spock's Beard and Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, which Peter Gabriel crafted with Genesis. So I think there's some shared interest in concept albums and telling stories, and I think it would be interesting to see them collaborate together. I don't know what it would look like, but it would be a fun ride if they could write a song together and see what comes out, and maybe share vocals together, because they're both very strong vocalists who contribute a lot in that space. So I thought that would be a fun pairing. Item number 4 on this top 5, Steven Wilson and Mariusz Duda from Riverside. So this is more of 2 more modern progressive rock people that I think would be incredible working together. In fact, I researched this and they actually did work together on a song, I believe. So they actually have collaborated briefly, but I thought it was still worthy of an inclusion here because they haven't really done a full-on collaboration, like a full album or something more substantial. This was more of a tribute song to someone, I believe, that was a fan of both of them, who passed away, if I remember right, in the YouTube comments. They're 2 very strong artists from one of the 2 best modern progressive rock bands that we have, Porcupine Tree and Riverside. They have a similar aesthetic in a lot of ways. They have similar writing styles, I think, and so I think they could blend really well together. They have almost this melancholy, more darker, moodier style to their writing and to their lyrics that I think could harmonize well together. The vocals, I think, could work in tandem with each other also. I just think they have a similar spirit and a similar vibe to them that I think would pair well in a collaboration. So that would be fun to witness beyond just a single song, but an actual full-on album that they worked on together. I think would be really great. Item number 3 on my list, Arjen Lucassen with David Gilmour. Arjen Lucassen is another hard one. He's, of course, the mastermind of the Arjen projects, so he's worked with so many artists already, so many classics in the genre of not just prog, but metal and classic rock and all of that stuff. So he's worked with almost everyone anyways. So coming up with someone for him to collaborate with who he hasn't already collaborated with was a challenge, but I thought David Gilmour would actually be pretty interesting to hear on an Arjen record, to hear like a really extended, beautiful guitar solo. I think Arjen Lucassen often leans into this more psychedelic, Pink Floyd-inspired space in some of his Arjen projects, so I think it would make for a good balance to some of the heavier portions of his work. I think even David Gilmour singing also on a release would be really cool as well. A really cool voice that really harkens back to a classic era of progressive rock, I think would be a nice addition to an Arjen album. Just, it could be fun to get more of these classic prog musicians involved and doing stuff with Arjen Lucassen, when I think the focus has been a lot on some of the newer prog voices and prog instrumentalists, which is great as well. But I thought this would be an interesting pairing, probably a dream get for Arjen Lucassen if he could get David Gilmour out and playing on one of his albums. So thought that was fun to explore. Number 2, I thought about Mike Portnoy with Alex Lifeson and Geddy Lee, somewhat forming a new rock trio of a sort, similar to Rush, of course. Neal Peart passed away, unfortunately, a few years back. Basically, Rush has disbanded since then, but it would be interesting to see Mike Portnoy come in and fill that role. And I know there's probably some controversy to this because it's like, how can you ever replace someone as legendary as Neal Peart? And I wouldn't think of it as a replacement. I think of it as like a new project, but it would have a similar sound or vibe to Rush, I would imagine, with these members involved, but something a bit newer and more fresh and different with Mike Portnoy involved. Or, if they just want to jam out to Rush songs, that also works too. Mike Portnoy has long established his love of Rush. I believe he's been involved with Rush tribute acts and things like that. So wouldn't be too much of a stretch to see him here playing along with some Rush members. So I think that would be a fun thing to witness. Maybe even a live performance would be really fun to see with these guys. If they don't collaborate on an album specifically, that could be cool to see them just play in an arena, and it would be an exciting way to keep the spirit of Rush alive in some format. So I thought that was a cool idea. And item number 1, maybe this is a little oddball, but I think it fits in my mind. Jon Anderson of Yes, coming aboard with the Moon Safari guys. Once again, a collaboration of an artist joining up with an established band. But I thought this would be a really cool mixture of stuff going on here. Because I think of Moon Safari as almost a modern day Yes in a lot of ways. They have that positive, uplifting, sunny vibe to them. They have those great harmony vocals that Jon Anderson was known for back in the day. And I think Jon Anderson's vibe and spirit would really match well with Moon Safari's sound and create something really magical and really uplifting and fun and positive. I think that would be a great vibe. And I think it would be an honor for the Moon Safari guys, and I think Jon Anderson would have a bunch of fun playing with them. Jon Anderson collaborated with Royna Stolt on an incredible, underrated release in my mind, The Invention of Knowledge. I really hope they come out with another album at some point. I believe Royna Stolt hints that they continued working on new music beyond that, but it just hasn't come to fruition. There's a lot of projects that Jon Anderson seems to have in the works that seem like they may be coming out at some point in the future. But it would just be a fun collaboration to see him fit in with the Moon Safari group. and it would just be a dream come true for a fan. You know, Jana talks about how two of her favorite prog bands are Yes and Moon Safari that we've covered on the channel, and I think there's a reason for that. They both occupy a similar space, and I think their sound and styles would blend super well together. So those are the collaborations I came up with, but please let me know in the comments how you feel about these collaborations, but also suggest your own collaborations. That adds to the fun, and so I thought this was a really fun topic overall. So thank you guys for joining me in this top 5, and I hope to catch you in a future episode. Bye everybody, enjoy the music.